What's up, y'all? It's your girl Malika checking in with another episode of From the Block podcast. And as you can see, this is not a solo episode. I'm super excited today. So look, y'all, the presidential election is officially 37 days away. This is September 28th, 2024. All right. And there's literally so much to talk about. Now, this election is pretty special for a multitude of reasons, especially since, Gen Z is really taking the forefront. And with that being said, it's important to hear what young voters have to say in regards to policies, the election, and just overall, the concern for our future. So I'm super excited for this group discussion today because, we have something to say. There's a lot to talk about. So please give it up for Tobias, Director of Outreach for Voters of Tomorrow, GA, and Sam, Young Patriots Association and Field Director of Faith and Freedom Coalition. Yay! All right, so look, throughout the years, right, we've seen Trump and the Republican stance on abortion and, them being really against pro-choice. Now, recently, Trump and his VP, J.D. Vance, put out a statement stating that, his administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. Vance followed up in an interview by saying, Trump as president would veto a federal ban on abortion, even if one managed to pass Congress. Now, do you think that this whole that their new stance on abortion and reproductive rights, does it come off as like an insincere tactic to gather more voters? Or do you think that we're going to see like a shift with more conservatives in regards to how they view reproductive rights?
I think it's a tactic. I think because they understand, they seeing that, okay, we're now looking at how can a man tell a woman what to do with her body? How are you going to do a federal ban on abortion for women across the world? And there's reasons, incest, health reasons as to why abortions are there, and women should have full autonomy over their bodies. The government should not be involved in it. So they're seeing Gen Z voters, they're seeing older voters also that are saying this is not the right way to go. And they're getting a lot of pushbacks, and we see the polls, especially when it comes to reproductive justice and freedom. We see the polls. They're not likely for Trump and Vance. So I think this tactic of pushing back and changing the narrative is a great way in their eyes for us. Okay, let's change this. Mm-hmm. And American people will see, oh, Trump and Vance are changing. Trump and Vance are seeing that there's a new outlook on life, and let's just leave it to the states, for they say. And that is the way they're trying to go. But I don't think it's going to work because I know it's a tactic. I'm sure other Americans know it's a tactic.
So I would definitely call it like playing to the American audience, which is definitely a tactic because at the end of the day, we are in the middle of campaign season. The goal is to get elected.
Yeah.
I do think that conservatives across the board generally at an 80-20% rate actually do support exceptions on the life issue for rape, incest, life of the mother. I think it's a very large mischaracterization to say the majority of conservatives do not support those exceptions. However, I don't want to say that Trump is completely off the life bandwagon right now, because even if he says that, look at what he did in his first administration. You have Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh. Those three people, not President Trump or anyone in Congress, were the ones that had the most impactful decision on the life issue in the history of this country, quite possibly. So even if Trump and Vance sort of say that they're not pro-life anymore to get elected, look at the actions, and I will say that President Trump has unequivocally been the most pro-life president in the history of this country. Not because of what he said or done, but because of who he's appointed to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Now, some people may respond to that and say, okay, well, traditionally, many conservatives are, pro-choice. So with this, quote unquote, new stance from, Trump and his VP, do you all think that could possibly put their votes in jeopardy with, their supporters?
No. Pro-lifers will be voting for Donald Trump unequivocally at near a 95% clip because they see Justice Kavanaugh, they see Justice Barrett, they see Justice Gorsuch, and they're like, well, if Donald Trump appoints another one of these, then it doesn't really matter what he says because they can legislate from the bench and have the most pro-life court policy in the history of America.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's going to change anything. Again, like he said, when you look at Trump has appointed 3 justices to the court. They've overturned Roe v. Wade. And so now American people are going to see, and his supporters are seeing, okay, he is campaigning and he's changing his mindset, but we see what he's done throughout his presidency. So we see that throughout his presidency, his last term, he was for us. He had the same ideas that we've felt. So I think they're looking at it now, okay, he's saying this, but we know the way he's going to go.
So what is you all's response to when people say, the Democrats, they like to take extreme cases and market those cases to the masses to gain more votes? Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a reach?
I would say it's good that we take extreme cases. It is good to spotlight the cases that affect the American people. So there's nothing wrong with taking those extreme cases, those cases where, again, Roe v. Wade, women reproductive justice were overturned. When you're hearing the president of the United States saying, he don't believe LGBTQ individuals should have freedom as such, in a way he's saying it. I feel like it's important to bring those remarks and bring those cases to the forefront, to the spotlight, so American people who may not read as much or not research into the policy and the sayings of both candidates they're seeing, because we know TV, TikTok, those are the biggest influences for this presidential term. So bringing that to the spotlight and bringing it to the American people does a lot, because there's so many people now that are saying, oh my God, we see this. When we look at Project 2025, before it was released for, I want to say, at least a month or two prior to it being exposed, and people are saying, wow, because people brought it to the forefront and people are saying, okay, this is what this section is saying. That is what this section is saying. This is not safe for America. So I think it's great. I love it.
It's the nature of an election.
Yeah.
If there is an extreme sort of outlier that you can bring up and it benefits your side argumentatively, you're going to sort of push that and try to say, look at what's happening here. We can't let this happen in our country. Vote for my guy. And that happens across the board everywhere. As for Project 2025, as someone who is very involved in the conservative side of the thing, Project 2025 is not something we use in our lexicon. That is exclusively a Heritage Foundation thing, and no legislator I've talked to has been like, yeah, Project 2025, we're going to win and we're going to implement this. It's parts of it might be implemented as an individual policy front, but the 900 pages are largely just the Heritage Foundation sort of think tank that's been, marketed to present conservatives in a bad light, and it has been effective by the Harris administration or Harris campaign to do so.
Yes. So Project 25 is I know all 900 pages may not be implemented, but even the project itself is not a good project for America. So even if parts of it is going to be implemented, parts of it should not be implemented at all. This project is a dangerous project, and it's a scary project for the United States of America. And so I think, and I'm happy that the Harris campaign is using this as a way to bring it into, because of course a conservative senator, a conservative legislator is not going to say, yeah, let's do this Project 2025. Of course, Trump is going to say, no, I don't know nothing about this Project 2025.
He's been actually pretty vocal against it.
Right. Of course, they're going to say this because they know American people are not going to look at this and say, this is of a democracy. They know American people are not going to look at this and say, oh, okay, yes, I can live for this, because a lot of people that are on their side also are benefited from the Department of Education. So if they're looking at a Project 2025 and they're seeing the policy implementations and they're saying, oh, so they want to raise the Department of Education? I need to be supported. I'm not a millionaire. I can't fund my own education, so I don't know if I should do that.
The Department of Education, should Trump win, I can just say straight up, it's not going to be erased. There's not going to be the votes for that in Congress. Enough of our legislators are smart enough not to implement some of the most radical parts of Project 2025.
They're not smart enough to implement the full parts of Project 2025, but that does not mean to say they would cut the budget of the Department of Education. He did it under his presidency. He cut part of the budget of the Department of Education. And when you're cutting the budget of the Department of Education, you are taking away monies for people of marginalized communities to further their education in a way.
Now, speaking of marginalized communities, so I know we've talked about the importance of education, and I remember there was a lot of discourse online in regards to funding for, minority communities as well as HBCUs, and how Biden, even though that he claimed that he was going to donate a certain amount to HBCUs, it was actually the Trump administration that donated more. And I've seen, during his campaign trail, his rhetoric, Trump's rhetoric of, I can do more for minority communities than the Democrat Party. That's why you should vote for me. So, when information like that gets released, do you think that in a way it's his own tactic to pander to minority communities, or do you think both parties pretty much do their own fair job of pandering to minority communities?
I do think both parties do, their own job with pandering to minority communities, because they understand the importance of what minority communities can give in the election. Period. A lot of candidates fight for the black vote. A lot of candidates fight for the LGBTQIA plus vote because they understand the importance and the power that those votes have. So I do understand that. But when you look at not only just giving monies to HBCUs, but you look at initiatives that are in place, the White House HBCU Initiative Scholar Program, then you look at Kamala Harris, who is an HBCU graduate, who is giving spotlight to HBCU students. This summer is so many HBCU students that interned on the Capitol through the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation internship, but also through congressional internships because of the spotlight that, we have a vice president that has graduated from an HBCU. And they have allocated funds to HBCU students. I have not seen it where Trump has given more money to HBCUs than Joe Biden. If there is, I would love to see that, but I have not seen that for myself.
I know President Trump definitely did make an effort to increase funding to HBCUs, especially towards the back half of his first term. He definitely did try to do a lot of outreach, and I hope it pays off. He legitimately made a good faith effort in specifically the second half of his term. I know he had Ben Carson and the Platinum Plan, and I don't think that was foolproof at all, and it didn't necessarily achieve the results that you would want, but there is legitimate effort being made on the conservative side to outreach to all communities. Is it effective? By the data, I would say largely no, but there have been good faith attempts to try to at least work with other communities beside the largest of their base. And as for education, the most important stat is third grade reading level and math level. And for that is the number one determiner of that is the number one indicator of long-term success for students, is your third grade math and reading literacy level. That is what needs to be addressed across all communities, is making sure that we have really high, kindergarten level education for students. And I think it's more of a state's budgeting issue, not a federal issue, because states have a lot of say in education, and is sort of nerdy as it sounds, your state legislators and your state government matter just as much as the federal government. And working with your state leaders to try to get more funding for your community's education, that can be really helpful in improving communities, and it's not talked about enough.
That is true, and I agree with that when you're looking at state, but often you look at suburban areas of high-end income versus rural areas with majority low-income people. I come from a very urban area, and when you look at the schools that are in the area that I'm from versus when you go to the schools in another county that is 10 minutes away from me that is populated by a different group of individuals, you're seeing that education is funded well, and education is the funding is implemented well into those schools. But those same schools that are 10 minutes away from them and that have majority African Americans or marginalized community people at those schools are not getting as much funding as schools that look like you, right? And then you say on the backhand of Trump's term, on the backhand of his term, he decided to do more for HBCUs because Trump knew at the end of his presidency, people were saying, okay, we had 4 years of you and we did not see you excel our country. There was so much divisiveness. He created so much divisiveness in this country, from the January 6th riot to his actions over COVID-19. And so many Americans, even Republicans, 23,000 Republicans did not vote in the 2020 election for president because they could not bring themselves to vote for Trump because they were not satisfied with how he acted during his presidency. And so, of course, on the backhand, if I was President Trump, on the backhand, I would support an HBCU because, again, I understand the power of HBCU students and marginalized communities. And if I want to run a re-election and get reelected, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to pander to that community so they can say, oh, he is doing something for us. He's trying. Yes, he's trying. So let's vote for him.
So do you think the media is biased against the Republican Party, or do you think it was just solely based off of Trump being elected and he, quote unquote, brought the party down?
I would say he brought, because when you look at the history of Republicans, you had wholesome Republicans. That you may not have agreed on every policy that a Republican had, but you could have a conversation with them and you could agree to disagree. We could have a conversation about education. They could have a different stance on education. I could have a different stance on education, but I could take something from that conversation and they could take something from my conversation and we could move forward. And you also saw in legislature, not only state, local, federal, you saw Republicans were able to work together in a way for the goodness of American people. We didn't always get it right. It wasn't always right, but you were still able to see them work together. And then when you look at presidential campaigns in the past, Barack Obama, John McCain, they had two different platforms they ran on, but they still had respect for one another because they understood the respect for America and how to showcase for the American people. When you look at Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, they had different ideas and different sets, but they still knew how to agree to disagree for the American people. Then when you come to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, first of all, when you look at Donald Trump during the Republican primary, he was insulting his own people.
That's very
the
true.
way it was a reality show. I'm not going to tell you a story. I loved watching the Republican debates when he was initially running for president because they were comedy. They were hilarious. He's a reality TV star. He's entertaining. So I was extremely entertained by those debates. But you saw there was a lack of respect. There was ignorance in those conversations. And along with that, he shifted the Republican Party to MAGA radicals. You see that now they have shifted totally from what the Republicans that you saw during Obama era.
That is very true. And as someone who's gotten older, I've grown to appreciate Mitt Romney heavily. He is a true statesman and is somebody that I think history 50 years from now will view as one of the best presidents we've never had. Back in 2012, I remember he got raked over the coals by some of the media. And looking back, that was probably unfair because he was just a guy who believed conservative things and wanted to get conservative things done. He was not, a bad guy by any means. Like, he respected democracy. He was all around just like him and John McCain were both exceptional people. And we need exceptional people running for office. We need statesmen running for office. And whenever we have something like that, and then you have horse race media where Fox News is definitely toting the line of the conservatives, and then MSNBC-CNN are toting the side of the Democrats, you just have horse race media where one side is trying to put down the other side and the other side is trying to put down like the other side. So it's sort of a mess because you just turn on the news and get the flavor you want. And I do think that has polarized the country to a degree we've never seen before. and view like the only people that win are the media companies that are doing this because they are still selling ads, they are still raking in money, and the American people are just getting more and more polarized, and we can't have good conversations now. It's all, you're the bad guy, you're the bad guy.
Yes, I agree.
So I think it's been more so destructive to discourse in our country.
I do definitely agree with that when you talk about how the media, one side supports one side and Democratic side, and you have the Republican side of the media. But I think, again, that goes back to initially when Trump started running for office, right? And so you had these radical ideas put up. You had a guy that was comfortable saying what he wanted to say. He was comfortable degrading women. You had this guy that had a record of degrading women. You had a guy that had a record of being fraudulent. So there were people that lived and supported that. But because of the progress that we made under the Obama administration, there was fear to speak of it publicly, right? So with this guy running and being the front runner, a billionaire that is going to support rich people, and he's saying radical things, now it's comforting. We know someone is running and he's able to say it, so now we can come out and we can say the things that we've been feeling for years, but we've had to cover it up. And so I think also when it goes into talking about media, I think that goes on with the Gen Z and other media platforms to encourage the importance. I watch the news, but I don't watch it as much because I like to read and see policies for myself.
That's very
because
important.
as you said, they flavor it up. They will make it CNN, MSNBC will make it how they want to. Fox News will make it how they want to. In some instances, it seems like flavoring when you look at certain news channels and they say things, but then you look at it and you say, okay, well, this is what it is. It's flavored, but this is the facts of the situation.
Yes, I mean, I like reading like Axios or some sort of bland news like Reuters or something with just no spin on it, so I can sort of get a handle on like the set of facts without like spin. But people have to be sort of proactive to get the facts without the flavor. And a lot of people just don't want to get the facts without the flavor. A lot of people want to sit down and feel good because their side's winning according to their news station. And like, it's a problem.
But I think another thing to also take into consideration. See, me, I always like to consider myself as very neutral because I just love to read.
Yeah.
And I love to get information, on my own.
Right.
But when things happen, like, for example, the presidential debate that we all watched, and we literally saw, as like I said, I'm a very neutral person, but seeing Trump pretty much spiral
out of control, right?
In front of us, it's a bit disheartening. And I know for a fact if I was just, like a real open conservative, that would make me, feel very uncomfortable. But even on the flip side too, let's say if the roles were reversed and it was Kamala, emulating that behavior, again, that would be something incredibly concerning. And speaking of the debate, I think there were a lot of things to really discuss from that night in particular, but I would say the harmful rhetoric against the Haitian immigrant community in Springfield, Ohio. And then I don't know if you all saw a couple of days later when JD Vance did an interview saying that they purposely put out that campaign, but the reason why they did it was to spread awareness of the, out of control immigration issue that was put into place due to the Biden administration. And it's like, I feel like kind of going peeking back off of what you two had said, how the party definitely, there was a shift in 2016 when Trump, first stepped into the scene. And it's pretty disheartening because I even remember growing up, right? If one was a Republican or one was a Democrat, like that was your business,
right? Basically.
But now it seems like these days, if someone blatantly says, I am a Republican, automatically it's like, you're this, terrible bigot and you're this, overtly racist human being and I can't be nowhere near you. And I think Trump is to... Trump
to blame for that.
Yeah, it's to blame for that, honestly.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, by the way, on the whole Haitian?
On the Haitian?
Yeah.
I don't know who told Trump that like this would be your big winner is sort of talking about the Haitian community in a negative light. I don't necessarily I just don't know who gave him that advice because he got asked about immigration, and statistically immigration is the issue where Republicans pull the best in. We are the Republican, the generic Republican platform on immigration is statistically their most, that and the economy are statistically the two best things that they poll on, public opinion wise. And he goes off, and I guess he gets that data, and he decides, well, let's take it up a notch and lie about the Haitian community. And it's just not tasteful. He could have talked about, Laken Riley, who was my sister's roommate at UGA, who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant, because that is a real story that happened. And that is a real tragedy. And that is something that could have been prevented by much stricter immigration policy. But instead, we're eating the dogs and we're eating the cats. And it's like, no, I don't think we're eating dogs and cats.
Yeah.
I think that immigration's a serious problem that needs an adult to talk about sort of serious solutions. And Trump in 2016 was more of an adult about how he went about immigration than he is in 2024.
And I agree with that. And I think another thing that messes it up is we classify immigrants as a whole as criminals. And I think that is not humanity to say, if a person comes to America, the land of free, for freedom, safety, and opportunity, that they're aliens and they're criminals and that they should not be allowed in our country, and let's deport them, separate them from their family, and take them back to their country. That is unfair, because if that's the case, everyone that's in America right now should go back to their country. White people should be able to go back to Europe. African Americans should be able to go back to Africa, Bahamas, Jamaica, where our roots are. So I don't think that's fair to say that illegal immigrants are criminals and they're aliens. I do want to go back to something you pointed out when you said Trump was spiraling out of control and he was being radical during the debate. And you feel like he was the other side flip, that we would hold Kamala Harris accountable also. That is true, because when we saw Joe Biden and the Donald Trump debate, I was sitting with my family at my cousin's house, and we were like, oh God, Joe.
Yeah, this was really bad.
We were like,
that was
wow, this is really scary, and this is not looking well. And he did not pull through as we expected. He did not do well as we expected. And it was a scary thing, because I began to think, okay, is he fit for another 4 years in office? Is this the right move? Will we win if he stays on the ticket? I did begin to fear that. And I did begin to think the Democratic Party needed another candidate, because I did not feel that he was the right choice anymore after that debate. So I think that's the beauty of presidential debates. Each side is able to see truly what their candidates are pushing for, what their candidates' stance is, and how the ability of their candidates. And we saw that at the debate of Trump. We saw his ability. We saw now he's an older, out of control guy that's running for president. First it was Joe Biden is old. Now it's, okay, Trump is 78 years old. We see his age. He's going crazy. He's spiraling out of control, and he's just spewing things. Whomever is his person, his correspondent that's giving him his aid, that's giving him his information, is also spewing things, and they're just going crazy. Yesterday, I was at the barbershop late at night, and I was talking to this guy, and, I was not going to say anything because it was late. It was going on 10 o'clock at night, and I just wanted to get a haircut and go to sleep. And he said, oh, I seen the video of the Haitians eating the cats and dogs. And I'm saying, please show me this video.
Where was this barbershop at, on Edgewood?
Morehouse. This is his first time ever being there, and he had on a Trump Vans hat, a Trump Vans shirt.
Oh, wow.
That was, that's fine. In America, you're able to express yourself and do well. I was not going to say anything to him until a Kamala Harris ad came up, and he cursed and called her all type of names that are not of the Bible. And I asked the question, why is she all of this? And his first thing was, immigration, which you said the conservatives do have a big pull with immigration, because American people do look like they are harder on immigration policies. But that goes to show the difference between Republicans in the past and how they were able to express their immigration policies, and how what they had reasons and grounds to say, well, this is what we feel. This is when we look at the job market. We're looking at immigrants coming, taking the jobs. Not saying, oh, immigrants are coming, taking black jobs. And I asked the guy yesterday. He was like, yeah, they are coming, taking our black jobs. And I said, this is a black man. And I said, what black jobs are they taking? He said, the jobs at Burger King that he said you won't be affected by it with your advanced degree, but the jobs at Burger King, the jobs at UPS as a driver, FedEx, and McDonald's. And I said that shows the ignorance in statements like that. That shows the ignorance in it.
It's just important to sort of speak intelligently on important issues,
Yes.
and that has sort of faded over the last 10 years.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of
absolutely.
sort of thoughtful, measured sort of takes on a lot of the conservative and liberal side. It's more just what's going to get spent on the media, what's going to get people's blood pumping, what's going to energize the base.
Yeah.
Not, how can we eloquently talk about this very nuanced and important issue.
Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, what are y'all stance though? And it doesn't have to be like super super long, but in regards to immigration, do you think this country has a massive immigration problem, or do you think we're pretty much fine where we're at?
I think there is an issue with immigration. And being that America is as free as it is, and a lot of people come to us for opportunity, freedom, and to get away from the country in which they are. As we've seen, you have genocide in different countries, and they come to America for freedom. And I do believe that we do have an immigration issue.
It's a problem. We are definitely. I look at the unemployment chart, and this is going to get into the weeds, but unemployment's gone up over the last 6 months. And whenever unemployment's rising and you still have an influx of immigrants into the country, statistically, you're increasing the labor supply as labor demand drops, which means wages will get heavily suppressed, which means wages get suppressed. Inflation is still it's going down, but the effects are still here. And just people are getting priced out. And Bernie Sanders, I can't believe I'm quoting him, but he said it best. Illegal immigration is a Koch brothers scheme. And it does hurt the American worker in terms of wage growth. And then additionally, when you have immigrants coming into this country illegally, some are very good people that are hard workers and trying to do right by America. But you also don't have that. And there's no way to check and verify who's a hardworking immigrant and who's here from MS-13. And there definitely needs to be more guardrails. It's a serious issue that needs.
So then, what do you think
addressing.
should be implemented to, I guess, fact check? Well, let me not say fact check, but what policies you think should be implemented to see, okay, this individual is a great citizen versus someone that should be, I guess, deported back to their country?
Well, the first thing that you could do is have a legitimate process to check, which involves hiring people to go down to the southern border and have centers across the country, because some people overstay their visas. That's also a huge issue, is people overstaying their visas. And I don't want to make it seem like it's only people from South America flowing into our country, because it's not. There are illegal immigrants from everywhere. And I do not want illegal immigrants from Britain. I don't want illegal immigrants from really anywhere. I think the first thing you do is hire people. You need to put money on the issue, which means we need to fund a southern border wall. We need to fund immigration judges, and we need to fund more personnel to process people and hear these people out. That way, they can't just claim asylum and then stay here for 2 years and then finally get their hearing. We need to very quickly expedite that process. Are you here legitimately? Are you coming for a legitimate reason? Or are you here to traffic fentanyl? We need to find that out, and it takes people to do that. We need to hire people to do that. So the federal government needs to fund that issue much more seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I guess, something that I don't want to say it kind of confuses me, but I guess it just sort of raises a concern. When people say, with the influx of immigrants coming, that they're taking our jobs, I guess what I want to just really start discussing is what jobs are we actually talking about? Because are we referring to, like software engineers or, those that work in IT? But then, on the flip side, if people said, well, what jobs we're talking about, I don't want it to, like, I remember Kelly Osbourne when she was on The View, and she said, Donald Trump, if you deport all the immigrants, who's going to clean your toilets? And then Sonny was like, oh yeah, that's not it.
Oh God.
So,
Oh no.
yeah. So it's like I don't want it. I don't want it. Yeah, she was insane for that. I don't want it to be like when you think of immigrants, working hard in this country, you only want to, associate them with cleaning toilets or sweeping the streets. Because I do believe that they're absolutely more than that. But I just want to know specifically when we say like, okay, they're raising up, healthcare insurance because there's too many people coming into the towns. They're taking our jobs. They're stealing opportunities from us. What exact opportunities are you talking about?
I know majority of the people that say they're talking about opportunities in factories, right? Because when you look at it, if an immigrant comes over and work at a factory like Coca-Cola, work at a factory like M&M Mars, the factory owner can pay them less than what they would have to pay to an American that is saying, oh, I'm not taking $10 an hour. I'm not taking $9 an hour to work 12 hours a day. Versus an immigrant comes over to America and the immigrant is just trying to make a way and make a living, and they will take any pay that is, easier to get. So factory owners are more prone to hire them because there's less that they have to pay out. So when people say that they're saying, oh, they're taking those jobs. Now, when you have an intellectual and you, like you said, software engineers, that is not being taken. So why is it that they only taking factory jobs, that they're taking the American jobs?
Oh, go ahead.
It is. They're taking factory jobs, but they actually are taking software engineering jobs as well. You have a very robust visa system from specifically India. That is one of the largest sort of areas where people come into this country, and they do take software engineering jobs. They take white collar jobs. They take and they get these jobs legitimately. They have the skills to do them. It hurts a college graduate who has to either accept new lower market rate in that position, or they miss out on the job altogether because there was cheaper labor elsewhere, which is sort of not my issue. Is I want to see wage growth, and I feel like immigration and just increasing the labor supply in its entirety hurts wage growth.
So I guess my follow-up question to that briefly is, shouldn't we be blaming the CEOs, like the owners of the companies versus the immigrants? Because like I said,
entities.
we're all, college educated, and of course we all work hard. But what if there's someone coming from Nigeria or from India that's willing to put in a little bit more work than me? And I'm perfectly fine with admitting that. So if they, want to study 3 more hours extra compared to, myself, not saying that I'm, underqualified, but, if they want to put in that work and they, get that software engineer job that I applied to, or they get that nursing job that, I've been eyeing, how can I genuinely get upset if, this one particular individual wants to take the extra mile? Right. So me personally, I just think that wouldn't it just make a little bit more sense to, blame the owners of this company for wanting to outsource those that are willing to accept a lower wage compared to us that were, born here in this country.
And that's when we go into blaming the federal government for allowing private entities for having so much leadway and freedom.
Bingo.
Because when you say we're both college graduates, right? We're both college educated. And so you go here and you want me to stay at this job 3 hours after it's time to clock out, and I'm only getting $5 extra. I'm not going to do it. Versus someone that's out of this country, that's, again, trying to make a living, that's like, okay, I can get this, I can make it, I'll do that, get the $5. And they are educated, and you made another comment, they're qualified for the job. That's fine. Let them do it. I understand my worth. That is not something I want to do. I'm not going to work my life away for an extra $5. And that goes, again, with the federal government in place, implementing more policies and regulations for CEOs to not be able to say, well, I'm going to lay this, or I'm not going to hire him, or I'm going to hire the immigrant with the Visa card versus the American citizen because I'm going to be able to pay him less or pay her less than I have to pay the American citizen.
Well, I mean, that's the whole sort of point of government, I guess, is to say, like, we are not a completely capitalistic society. Like, if we were completely free market, the federal government just wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be taxes. There wouldn't be any regulations. The whole purpose of the federal government, or at least one of the purposes, is to regulate.
Yeah.
And there needs to be some regulation on hiring practices for big companies. It's sort of the government's job to do that and protect the American labor of this country. The blue collar, white collar, no collar American workers should have the support of the federal government. The federal government should not be working to maximize shareholder profits.
And I agree with that.
So my final question, what's an issue that is a major concern to you that has not been addressed or properly addressed by either candidates?
Mental health. I'm a board member of Youth Move National, which is a organization that deals with youth that are in justice-serving institutions, mental health institutions, and the mental health crisis that affects marginalized communities, specifically LGBTQIA plus individuals and BIPOC individuals, is not focused on, or there's not enough policies or policy for mental health crisis. And the mental health crisis in America now is sky high. One, because we're not able to afford a house, graduate for college, going to school to be educated, to have a better life for myself. But as I get educated, as I elevate in my life, I'm not able to buy a home. And that's that's my goal, to be able to afford my own home. And I'm not able to afford my own home, one, for student loans, and one, because I do not make enough money. I look differently when I make some money. When I have a little change in my pocket, I can dine out. I can go to a restaurant and eat a little better and give a bigger tip to the waitress because I have extra money. But America, we're seeing students between the ages of 18 to early 30s are not able to buy their homes, and they're working constantly. You have to have at least 17 different streams of incomes to be able to pay all of your bills and still have money left over from being able to pay it. So, and I think that goes into mental health. You're stressed, you're struggling. No one is happy. No one is having, excitement about it, because we're all trying to just figure out how can we get through it, and it drains you.
Mental health is definitely a serious problem amongst specifically like Zoomers and the younger generation. I think the cell phone has, I don't want to sound like an old sort of boomer, but I think there are negative effects of the cell phone.
Okay.
And one issue I'm like passionate about that doesn't get talked about at all is the expansion of gambling.
Yeah.
Like gambling is just an industry that is straight up predatory towards
That's a real thing,
towards pretty much everybody, because they're mathematically designed to siphon money from regular people and put them in the pockets of the shareholders of the casinos.
Yeah.
So we are literally entering an environment where people can whip their phones out and make bets online. So like sports betting is expanding, and like it is harming young people.
Absolutely.
Men in college are being trained and getting blasted with ads to like gamble your paycheck away. And it's a huge issue. You can bet $100 right now on your cell phone, not in Georgia because it's not legal here yet, but if you get a VPN and go to Tennessee, you can bet your entire paycheck on the Falcons game tomorrow. And if you lose, these casino owners are going to be thrilled because they're going to have your money and you're going to miss your credit card payment, miss your rent, and it can destroy somebody's life. So it's an issue that doesn't get talked about, but like it is a serious, serious, serious issue that can, once again, really affect someone's mental health. People with problem gambling disorders can pretty much destroy their life in a day with an online sports book. So it's something that I think doesn't get talked about at all, and it's a very nuanced policy that no side's sort of stabbing each other over. But like it's a real issue that young people are facing.
And I think the gambling may not be talked about, and that goes back to saying how money play a huge role in politics. Because gambling also feeds campaigns, and gambling, losing your money, that leads to the suicide rate. People are taking their lives and drug overdose. So I think mental health should be something that both candidates should have a stance on and speak about publicly on stage.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Well, Tobias, Sam, I would love to have y'all back. This is really amazing.
Yeah, I love the conversation.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's crazy. I know I sent y'all interview questions, and we didn't even go off of the questions that I sent. But that just shows like how just insightful you two are. And I mean, keep up the good work. This is really amazing. And of course, I would love to have you guys
Of course,
back.
I'd love
you,
to come
guys.
back. I loved it.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was good. I
Period.
had fun.
So you can follow Tobias on all social media platforms at.
TobiasBrown.__.
You can follow Sam at.
I have only X. I only use X.
That's
at
fine.
Sam G. Steiner.
That's awesome. And you know what to do. Follow us at From the Block Podcast. Okay, bye.